Boom and fantastic. We're in. So welcome to a very special episode of the Good Listening To Show, Stories of Distinction and Genius. I'm Chris Grimes. I'm a motivational comedian and personal impact coach. And this, very importantly, is Caroline, as she's saying on her name tag, Ostomy Bramwell. Caroline was passed the golden baton to be in the show by Raphaeala Ilgenfritz, who is the creative director of UK Health Radio. You appeared on her show very recently, Caroline, I gather.
Did, yes, about beginning of last month, I think it was, episode 24. I do remember that.
And I've described you as being a health choices trailblazer and inspirational speaker. You're here to inspire businesses, students, and all other individuals the world over with your extraordinary story of, if I may reference the Daily Stoic, the idea of the obstacle is the way. You can obviously get on the open road shortly, but you had an ulcerative colitis diagnosis, and then you turned to sport after having major surgery to have your large intestine removed and a permanent ileostomy formed. Now, that's an extraordinary diagnosis and confrontation. And as you say, of your own volition, you know, your resilience is only truly tested when the barriers are presented. So it's a complete privilege to have you here, and we're really excited to get you on the open road. So if people don't have a frame of reference, and hopefully I've blown some happy smoke at you as to why you are here, but if someone says, oh, hello, what do you do then? So what's your favorite way of avoiding or answering the question? So why Ostomy Bramwell? What would you say Caroline is all about?
Caroline has two sides to her. She's a professional businesswoman doing PR and marketing by day, and like Superman or Superwoman, when I'm not on my screen, I'm wearing Lycra. So I am a triathlete and inspirational speaker in that realm.
And in your book, Canon, I love the title in researching you, From Loo Rolls to Lycra is what you have written, which I commend you for your title, Caroline.
I credit my husband. I came up with some really cheesy ones that would never have got away with it with the publisher. So my husband came up with Loo Rolls to Lycra. So credit to him. Whilst
we've got you as a sort of world exclusive, any can you remember any of the other cheesy ones that you didn't go with?
Oh, they're too grim to actually say publicly because my husband just went, "What? You can't say that." So yeah, it's the grotty, detaily side of living with ulcerative colitis.
And it is one of those great societal taboos, but what's so lovely and positive and affirmative about what you're doing, from Loo Rolls to Lycra, is chronicling the extraordinary journey of new choices, of your own volition, moving from being a self-confessed couch potato, petrified of water immersion, unable to swim. You transformed to a tough can-do individual and now doing Ironman triathlons.
Yes.
What's the female equivalent of Iron Man? I always feel a bit sort of awkward for women of the world that it's always called Iron Man. So do you have your own moniker for that?
No, it's just Iron Man because it's a brand. So
yes.
Yeah, it's just tough. It's like it's the toughest triathlon there is, unless you're doing some of these big ultras internationally or multiple 10 series. But
yes.
It's huge.
And as we've already sort of touched upon, our resilience isn't ever truly tested until the obstacles are presented. So do you want to just tell the story behind the story of what brought you to being who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. I was actually a mum. I've got a young kid. I was pregnant with my second child. And at that point, I was at that point where I kept having to dash to the toilet. I won't go too graphic, but basically, urgency to go to the loo. I thought bleeding meant I was losing a baby, but it wasn't. Bit of conversation with the GPs, and it was actually they suspected IBD. They thought not an IBD. They thought it was like inflammatory bowel generally. IBS, that sort of thing.
Yes.
But the way mine presented, they started to suspect it was a bit more than just an IBS. And I couldn't have the colonoscopy done until after I was 6 months pregnant for risk of the baby. But at just over 6 months pregnant, they put the scope in and confirmed it was ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune disorder where your body, the way I always describe it, your body's system to fight off viruses normally has its guns shooting outwards. What it did is turns them inwards. So it's basically, it thinks your body is the virus. So it's your own immune system. attacking
There's an
me.
equivalence in the world of sepsis in that regard as well, isn't it? Because that's another autoimmune way of attacking our own system from within.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
And so Natasha was born by cesarean because she was stubborn breech baby, wouldn't turn around. So she had to be a C-section. And within 2 weeks of her birth, because they couldn't treat me for the colitis while I was pregnant, obviously, because of the baby, the treatment is steroids. So they couldn't give me anything at that point. After she was born, I lost 2 stone in 2 weeks. So I became so skinny and tiny, and I couldn't feed her. My body just didn't want to feed her, and the disease kind of racked me. And that's when they put me on steroids. So I was on steroid treatment for best part 2 years before I made the decision to have surgery. But it's a yo-yo. Sometimes it's under control, sometimes it's not. It goes up and down. But it just got to the point where I couldn't leave the house.
Yes.
My business was imploding, and I had to make this decision of, should I just go for surgery? Which I did, and I wish I'd done it sooner, to be honest.
And and excuse my ignorance, but that's the ileostomy. That's the fix. Is that right?
Yeah, the stoma is a stoma can be an ileostomy, a colostomy, or a urostomy, depending on what part of the body they come from. Mine is ileostomy because they removed the whole of my large intestine. So the whole of my colon and rectum were taken, and it's the end of my small intestine that protrudes through the wall of my abdomen, and I have a bag on it. Somebody who's got colostomy, that comes from the other side of the body where they've still got part of their large intestine. And so that's formed from the large intestine. So there is a big difference between the two.
And pulling towards your future, you now define yourself as being an ostomate triathlete. And that's an extraordinary accolade to be a triathlete in any case, but also the fact that the barrier will not get in your way and you'll overcome. And that's what you're on the open road of inspirational speaking all about.
Yeah. Not just with ostomy. I find a lot of people hear me and go, oh my God, I've heard your story. I took up Couch to 5K. And these are people who don't have stomas. So if that means I've inspired people to get up off the sofa, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But,
and you mentioned a short while ago that it's a bit like a yo-yo managing the condition. I saw in researching you, which I was really delighted to do, last week you were posting about having had a complication in the sort of smooth, I suppose, prescription path. Would you like to just say a bit more about that? Because you're writing something to help GPs now. Yeah,
definitely. Just this goes to show how the medical system needs to be right for ostomates, any age, any patient really. But in the case of an ostomate, what happened for me was my GP's practice, I put in my request for my normal stoma supplies online. They normally send it off, ping, on electronically to my supplier to send it. What happened? Somebody at the GP's office printed off the prescription in the paper form, like you would for anything else, and just sent it down to the local pharmacy, which meant I didn't then get my product, because by the time I'm going, where are they? We found out the problem. And in the meantime, I had to use a different product that I had, but I react badly to. So those who see my LinkedIn or on my socials will see this very, very red, raw, sore skin. And that's because I was having an allergic reaction to the product. But that was the consequences of somebody up the chain not doing the right steps. So I'm helping to educate GPs, GP practices. I want them to understand the consequences of one person's little error could have a big impact on a patient. I don't class myself as a patient, but they have a big impact on somebody else's life by not doing their thing right. It's a very profound allegory about stakeholder management and about consequences of actions, and how everybody's cog in the chain is so extremely important if there's to be no sand in the chain to get the cogs of everything moving smoothly. And I do sit on a panel with lots of professionals, and we're working on the patient pathway, aiming to pass it into NICE for stoma care. So from pre-surgery stoma care, working with stoma care nurses, etc. Yes. So I'm already working on that anyway. But what I've now seen at the really grunt end is that the GP practice, it can fall down at that last moment. Yes. which is
And-
where the patient goes at the end of the day.
And remembering my acronyms, NICE is the National Institute for Clinical Excellence. Is that right?
Spot on. Yes. Well done. Sorry.
Go me. So, Caroline, it's my great privilege and joy to be able to curate you through the storyscape of the Good Listening To show. There's going to be a clearing, there's going to be a tree, there's going to be a lovely, juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's going to be some alchemy, some gold, a golden baton, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, and a cake. Hurrah! So it's all to play for. So shall we get you on the open road of that?
Yes, let's go for it. Let's get rolling.
So, first question then, your clearing is your serious happy place, which by the way is where energetically the whole podcast and radio show is set. So where would you say is Caroline Bramwell's clearing? Where is your serious happy place? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational and able to think?
Mine is the woodland up at the back of my house. I'll take my dog, I've got a lurcher, and I'll take her for a walk up the back on the cairn. And there's a clearing, I mean, ironically, it is a little clearing at the top. Right at the very top, somebody's built a little den with sticks and there's a bench beside it. To sit right at the top there is just fabulous. So I've never met anyone else up there. It's so quiet. So I just go up on the, somebody's been there because they built this lovely little den.
They built an improvised bivouac.
Yes, they have. They have. But it's fantastic. So I just go up there and sit up there, either with my notebook or just with my thoughts. So,
and I love the fact that the notion of a clearing spoke to you in that you just said, oh, yes, that's the clearing. So,
I knew it exactly. Yeah, instantly I knew it. Yeah.
So there you are, next to an improvised bivouac. You're in Ilfracombe. So just say the name of the place again. I know, not Ilfracombe.
It's up in the Cairns, which is this big woodland. It's all hilly around here, but it's a big hilly bit with lots of trees.
And excuse my geographical ignorance. That's the same as the Cairn Gorms, is it? Or am I making that up?
Well, it's spelt the same way, Cairn. Cairn.
Sorry.
But I'm down in North Devon.
So there we are then, in your clearing. Wonderful. Now I'm going to arrive with a tree in your clearing and a bit Waiting for Godot-esque, a bit deliberately existential because of my hectic background. We're now going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. How do you like these apples? I've got a few comedy props to whip out at various points. But yes, so now this is where you've been kind enough to have thought through on the open road of telling your story in being an inspirational speaker to all, the interpretation of the exercise 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've had 5 minutes to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, and then 2 things that never fail to grab your attention. And that's where a couple of random squirrels are going to come in, borrowed from the film Up, where the dog's going, oh, squirrels, what are your monsters of distraction? And then the 1 is a quirky or unusual fact about you. We couldn't possibly know about you until you tell us. It's not a memory test. So we're going to go back now.
It'll make you smile, I'll tell you that.
Wonderful. So let's get on the open road of interpreting your 4, 3, 2, 1, please. Over to you.
Right. Thank you. Well, your first thing, the 4 things that have shaped me, I would say. And I've played with this, and I quite got emotional thinking about this, actually. And I will not blub on here, at least I won't. I'll try not to. Basically, the things that shaped me, and I look back, when I was at school, I went to an all-girls school, and I was bullied. I was bullied at school, and I was so quiet, and I just got quieter and quieter at the school. And I think that had a big part on me. And when I was making some notes, it really resonated with what I've done going forwards. So the fact that I was bullied, it's only now as I look back at it and realise how the actions of people back then can just be carried through the rest of your life, but you don't consciously know you're doing it. So for me, it's I'd better be quiet. Oh, I better be quiet. That was really quite something. So thinking about what shaped me this morning, I was thinking that really did, because I think that stopped me being the true me. And it probably wasn't the true me back then. So I would say that was a big one, really quite interesting.
And there's a real interesting allegory there in about the notion of bullying in life, but also, the notion which I've stumbled upon recently called quiet quitting, where people just begin to exit, almost using silence as a currency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it shuts people down. But thank you for that first shapeage. Anything else you'd like to tell us about that and how that's impacted you?
I would have said I didn't think it impacted me, although when I left the school and I went on to college, I put on my armour, because I was moving from one school. The bullies did get kicked out, by the way, so they did get thrown out of school, and things got slightly better. But when I went to college, I then thought, I'm not going to be that person anymore. And I was a motorcyclist. I was into motorbikes back then, boyfriends with motorbikes and stuff. And what I did, I went to college. I got a great big leather jacket off of a friend who was a Hells Angel. He was passing it on, so I've got his leather jacket. So when I went to college, I was wearing this leather jacket, big energy, changed my name from Caroline to Carrie. And so there was a new persona, this new strong persona, went through college. So, it's quite weird how that made me go, oh, that's
another testament to that was almost like the first major resilience test or obstacle in your life. And then to reinvent yourself wearing the Hells Angels leathers. Harry is in the building.
Yeah, but it's funny now, years later, when I got into work and professional, I resorted back to Caroline because it was more professional. This leather-clad woman isn't the professional. Although, you'll love this, one of my bikes, I owned an old Jawa 350. It was it was a motorcycle and sidecar. It was an old rat. It had been hand-painted silver by a previous owner, and I rode to work on it every day wearing full Barry Sheen racing leathers.
And were you giving people a lift, or you just had all your clutter, your stuff?
At the weekends, it had people in it. I'd have a boyfriend on the back and his mate in the sidecar, and I was the one who'd turn up at the kebab shop at the end of the evening and take the helmet off, and all my hair flows out.
You've made two things: designated driver, but also Wallace and Gromit land, where you're there.
Oh, it really was Wallace and Gromit land, but it was brilliant. So but I used to, when my first job was in a company doing print works and stuff like that, marketing company. It was at the time when we used to hire motorcycle couriers to transport artwork around. What always made me smile was these couriers that would come in to collect the artwork off me in my suit didn't realise I was the girl they waved to every morning when they passed me on the bike going to work. So I thought that was quite amusing. But
you were the cool one, and they were the ones that were aspiring to be that cool.
Yeah.
Did you have a full set of the goggles that I'm imagining?
No, I wasn't Biggles, don't worry. It just full proper helmet. But I did look funny wearing full racing leathers on an old bike.
Shapage of recovery from post-bullying to now being the sort of leather-clad metaphorical Hells Angel, stroke Wallace and Gromit, stroke.
Yeah. Imagine Hells Angel and Wallace and Gromit. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes. And now shapage number 3, please.
I'd say the second thing that shaped was my dad, because he passed away young. And so I think losing him, he was only 52 and I was in my early 20s. And I had literally just gone out and set up my business. And it was in that first 6 months of me setting up my business. And then my dad passed away of a heart attack. So that was a real shock, because I had one business lunch with my dad. He worked in construction, and I always remember going to his place of work and saying, should we go and have lunch? And that was just so lovely to be self-employed, go and meet my dad and go and have some lunch with him. And I only got to do that once. So the passing of my dad was a big thing, really.
And do you have siblings as well, or this is...
Yeah, I've got 2 younger sisters as well. Yeah. So the impact on each of us was different. Yes. My next sibling down, she had just had a little boy. He was only 3 weeks old. So she was going through all of that with the death of my dad. And then my youngest sibling, who is 7 years younger than me, she was out on a riverboat cruise and didn't actually know. So she didn't know until she got home. So obviously everyone has their own issues when somebody passes. And so for each of us, it was very difficult.
Yes.
For different reasons. But it's impacted on all of us. But we really are a very tight, close family. So.
And is your mother still with us as well?
She is. Yes, she's still here. So, but we're all very, very close. So.
And did she ever remarry?
No, she had a long-term partner, but sadly he passed away as well. But she's now at the point that she's now got Parkinson's. So we're sort of looking after the care for her as well now later in life. But,
another test of your resilience. There's a lovely through line here of resilience and obstacles, and then finding the way. If life gives you
and
lemons,
supporting others, I think that's a big part I recognise in myself.
Yes,
I do things for other people, I do a lot for other people. So yeah, definitely. So the passing of my dad was big. I actually moved back home with my mum for 6 months after he passed away, because they were in the local wine guild. So all her friendship groups, suddenly dad wasn't there. So I started to do it with her. So we were going off doing wine tastings at weekends and stuff. And we went on a trip to the Kuchenheim Gardens and stuff together. So,
And in terms of your timeline, when was this circa? This is...
I would say that's now, gosh, over 30 years ago. Over 30 years ago. Only because I'm thinking how old I am.
I'm not trying to age us both.
Oh, no. Oh, blimey. No, it's my birthday this week as well. So it's going to be nearly.
It's my birthday in 11 days too. So we're probably, yes, go for it.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, mine's on Friday. So mine's Friday. So
yes,
I'm going to turn 59 this week.
And I'm going to be 62, born in 62. So it's just one of those freaky years where go figure.
Yeah, exactly. So, so it's been a long time. My dad passed away sort of 30 years plus ago. But you do sort of resonate to things. Yeah, too young, definitely. And that impacted me when I got close to that age. I started to worry about, I'm going to be 52.
Yeah.
But somebody said to me, but your everybody's got their own journey.
Yeah.
That was his journey. It wasn't my journey. So just because he passed at 52 didn't mean I was going to.
And indeed, very profoundly, you're very, very much on your own journey, as we're going to further explore as well.
Yeah, exactly. So that was a big thing. Yeah.
So I think we could be on to the fourth shapeage now, if I'm getting my maths right.
No, 3. We had bullied and dad.
Sorry, cashier number 3.
Yeah, come on. Right. The third one clearly had to be my stoma surgery. Oof, big one. Trying to make the decision to have the surgery was massive. But I'd been at the point where my business had been imploding. I was losing clients, only because you have a turnover of clients with marketing and PR marketing. You have clients for a few years and then they change, etc.
Yeah.
But as they dropped off, I wasn't finding any new ones because I couldn't go out. I couldn't go to meetings. I went to one meeting with a client and I disappeared to their bathroom for an hour. They thought I'd left the building. But it wasn't. It was the impact of the colitis. You are just so out of control with this disease. Yeah. And at that point, I thought, I can't go to meetings. I started to let my staff go because I didn't have as much income coming in. So that's where the business was just
unsurprisingly a real restriction happening. Absolutely.
Massively. Yeah. And my husband worked for me as well. So the impact was going to hit both of us in one go. Yeah. So that's why when I came to the point of thinking about surgery, having lived with this colitis and had the baby, Natasha was probably just coming up for 4 years old when I had the surgery. Robert was 6, Natasha was nearly 4. And that's when I made the decision. Sat down with my husband, Craig, and we discussed it. And you're like this. The scenario of that decision was a rare treat. I went to the cinema. He and I went out to the cinema. I rarely left the house. I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't had any stress. I was trying to make sure I didn't have a flare up while I was out. All fine for the cinema. When we came out, urgency hit. Gone 11 at night, nowhere to go. Nothing's open. So I dive in the bushes by the car park and my husband's walking up and down on patrol, making sure nobody didn't see me hiding in the bushes for so long. When I eventually emerged, he said to me, I think we have to think about things. We need to make a decision. And I said, yeah, I think we do. His suggestion, I think we should install a portaloo in the back of the car. I went, no, that's not what I was thinking. I'm thinking surgery is now real. I'm ready for surgery.
May I ask what the film was? Because, of course, you'll never not be able to.
I can't remember. He will, but I won't. He'll remember it because to him, he remembers that night better than I do because I've spent most of it in a bush.
When you can, pin me what the film was because that's such an iconic film because of the wrong reason.
Yes, exactly. I'll have to ask him what it was because
it's probably called The Rustle in the Bushes or something. But anyway,
it's probably Russell Crowe in it. But yeah, so then making that decision to have surgery was a biggie. And whilst most people might think it's awful, actually, when I had it done, it was the best day ever because I was so ready for it. I'd gone into it open-minded. I'd gone through the mental side of it beforehand, stuck a few bags on my body to see what it looked like, had a good cry, I prepped myself. And then when they actually did it, they took away this humongous bowl of tablets that I would take on a daily basis. I went, you don't need these now. Because literally, they've cut away all the disease. They had to wean me off the steroids, but it was all the other tablets I had to take as a side effects. And I came out smiling. I was told I woke up smiling because I've got this thing. And I was discharged within 2 days. But I was the first person in the world to have single-site keyhole surgery for this procedure, which means even though I knew I was going to have keyhole surgery, my surgeon created the one hole, did all of it through the one, and then brought my stoma out through it. So I've actually got no scars on my body because it was all done through there. So it took him about an hour or two longer than it normally would, but actually it meant I could get home with less slicing up and chopping up of my body. So,
and again, with the through line of resilience, it's wonderful in the world of coaching about how you've reframed your experience in order to bring in the new reality. But by reframing it in a positive, optimistic way, it solves a problem and creates a whole new future.
Yeah, because I think at the time when I spoke to the consultant beforehand, he said, well, you could get the stoma, but we'll leave that last little bit of rectum left because later on you might decide you want to have it reconnected and have what we call an internal pouch. I knew that would mean more surgeries. Now, I had a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I just said, no, quality of life is what I want. I want to be with the kids. Just do it once, be done with it.
Yes.
And that's what I did. I made the decision there and then to just say, give me the whole works. So I had everything removed. So there's no going back. And I've got what we call in the ostomy world a Barbie butt because it just got zipped up. So the girls have Barbie butts.
I'm so sorry. I love that. Sorry, the Barbie butt.
Yeah, and it's common in ostomy world. You're either a Barbie butt or a Ken butt. So yeah. But yeah,
and
so
luckily you're off the steroids because you don't want to end up with a Ken butt.
No, I don't want a Ken butt. To be honest, my butt's never going to look like Barbie's, but too much cycling.
I like it. It's called the Barbie butt. Thank you.
Yeah. So having that decision was my big shaper because that's what made me start looking at getting fit again.
Yes.
Because I couldn't look in the mirror. I'd cry if I saw myself because I'd blown out with steroids, puffed up. So I turned to sport.
And as you mentioned earlier, when you first had some photographs done, the photographs you sent me of what you are now about, you wear your bag with a sort of majestic, here it is. Da-da.
Yeah.
I think that's so helpful. Yeah. That's trailblazing too.
One of those songs, somebody says, what's the song for you? I'd go, this is me from The Greatest Showman. That will be it. This is me. Yes. This is exactly me. So, so I turned to sport just to get fit to do things with the kids, really. Yes. Didn't realise how driven I was by bits of bling.
I'm talking with, as I speak to Caroline, those of you listening on the old podcast and radio show, she's got an absolute, it looks like there are about 25 little blinging lanyards there of your triathletic awesomeness.
Yeah, all my triathlon medals, London Marathon medal, all sorts hanging up there. So, I turned to cycling first. So I cycled London to Paris in 24 hours a year after my surgery, just to prove to myself, hey, I can get out of the house. I don't have to hide behind trees. I'm not watching for a toilet all the time. So I did that to prove to myself and learned to cope with my bag on endurance event. Yes. And then I did another one 2 years after that, Newcastle to London.
And again, that must be so helpful for anybody else with the same condition to prove that, look, this is how free and liberated you can be.
Absolutely. It is very liberating having a bag. When you've lived with a condition that has held you back and kept you at home. And, people can be on tablets and what we call biologics. So, drugs, etc., to try and manage it all the time. You're going up and down with it. Yes. But actually, sometimes the surgery, whilst people fear surgery, it's actually, what does it give you? For me, it gave me freedom, quality of life.
And if I may, next time we record, you should maybe change your monitor to Caroline Barbie Butt Bramwell. That's
Barbie Butt. I like that. Yeah, Barbie Butt Bramwell.
There's an alliteration there that's just a gift that will keep on giving.
Oh yes.
I believe now, forgive my maths, we're on to the 3 things that inspire you now.
Yeah. My book obviously came from that, but the 3 things that have inspired me was always historically people who do phenomenal things on telly. I would sit on the sofa and watch the Tour de France, the Ironman, and Marathon des Sables. You know, all these bizarre extreme sports that you watch on telly. Those what inspire me. Watching people cross that finish line and the elation and what they went through, those were my inspiring things. So, yeah, I would say they were definitely the thing. But I would only watch them. I never thought I'd do one. So that's why it's quite amazing to think, God, I'd do that.
And I remember to mention, you're featured, are you not, in the Louise Minchin book?
Yes, yeah. Louise Minchin's book, Fearless Adventures with Extraordinary Women. She popped up in my inbox back in 2021, I think it was now, and said, oh, it's Louise off the telly. And you think it's spammy.
Yes.
And it really was Louise off the telly.
And did you know that I've already interviewed Louise off the telly around about the time she was publishing her book? There's a series strand that I do called Good Books, where you get to put your book on a metaphorical plinth within the clearing.
Oh, brilliant.
And Louise Minchin's been in the show, so that's one I'll definitely send you.
Which one was that one, the Dare to Try?
It was the Fearless.
Fearless.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fearless.
Fearless.
So the book you are in, I have talked to her about.
Brilliant, yes. Yeah, so she just popped up in my inbox, and I thought, blimey, this is weird, because it had been back in 2018 when my book came out, Lou Rolls to Lycra came out. I was in Waterstones. My publisher had got it in Waterstones, and I went in there all excited. Great, people are going to buy my book. But right next to it was Louise's first book called Dare to Try. And I'm like, oh, great, a TV celebrity doing triathlon as well. So what I did, I put both the books side by side on the end of the shelf, photographed them, put it on socials, tagged her, and went, I guess this is the only time we'll ever race.
Wow.
And that was back in 2018. And then in 2021, she pops up in my inbox. I told her this story recently, and she doesn't remember that. But I said, that's when I first tagged you. And she was like, oh my God, when our books both
Another resilience through line there is the notion that comparison is the thief of happiness, because you belonged in Waterstones right next to, in other words, your feet are under the table too. You belong next.
But it's a great analogy also, because I say to people with their PR, fits brilliantly for me for PR. PR is about drip, 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 drip. You never know who you're influencing. You never know who's watching. At some moment, something's going to pop up. For me, it was Louise Minchin, popped into my inbox and said, can we have an adventure together? What are you doing? And I said, well, I've booked in to do Cotswold 113, which is a half iron distance.
Cotswold what, sorry?
It's called Cotswold 113, 113, because you're covering 113. I think that was the mile. No,
what miles? So is that, what's the 113?
113 kilometres.
Sorry, yep.
So this is a lake swim, then a bike, and then a half marathon. And she went,
you do.
It's just your every Sunday afternoon jaunt, And so she said, brilliant, I'll do it with you. So that was going to be our adventure. So we met on the day. Ironically, we were in a queue, and I remember messaging her going, I'm stuck in a queue trying to get in. I can't get into the thing yet. I know we're meant to meet. She went, don't worry, so am I. And what happened? The lady in front of me got out of a car, and it was Louise. She was literally the car right in front of me in the queue to get in. It was just freaky. So we did the triathlon together. She interviewed me in the field afterwards. Then she wrote the book, and we've all become good friends. All the women in Fearless, we've become really good friends, and we're doing stuff together. We're trying each other's sports out and all sorts. So Louise and I were both up in Blackpool a couple of weeks ago for some awards. So,
and you must send her this episode as well, and so the two episodes can collide in the universe.
I will. She'll be delighted that I've talked about Fearless more for her as well. But it's good. We've created such a great friendship group. All the women in Fearless are just each phenomenal in their own way, and I'm honoured to be alongside some of these humongous names.
And right back at you, they'll be honoured to be alongside you too.
Oh, thank you. But they're just fantastic ladies. Yeah, like Kadina, we've just cheering Kadina Cox on at the Paralympics just about a month ago, didn't we?
Yes.
So she's one of our little team, but she's phenomenal. We sat up late at night chewing the cud over hidden disabilities. So watching sports, inspirational sport, was one of my things that inspired me. And then seeing the other thing that inspires me now is seeing other people take action when they've heard what I've done. We touched on that very briefly earlier. For somebody to come to me and say, I've heard about you. I've seen what you've done. Because of you, I've taken up couch to 5K, or I've started to go to park run. I could never do what you do, but I'm doing this. They inspire me. And those are the reasons that I push my boundaries, because people are starting to do things. And I think this is fantastic. If by doing what I do helps them, and them telling me that just inspires me more just to keep pushing those boundaries.
It's the beauty of reciprocity. That's one of my favorite words about how we all influence each other. So reciprocity is a beautiful word. And bless you for being able to make people aspire to reciprocate.
And I love that. And I always say to them, you're inspiring me. It's not me inspiring you. You're inspiring me because you're getting up and doing it. So that's one of the other things. And clearly, obviously, my children were my inspiration. I would never have got in a pool. When I took up this cycling malarkey after surgery, I couldn't swim. So, for me, my children were...
And it went deeper than that, didn't it? Excuse the analogy, because you're actually you're afraid of water immersion.
I was terrified. Yeah, I would hyperventilate and panic if I got my face wet. So for me, the first step, I only got in a pool because I thought, I want to swim with my children.
So sorry, if you're terrified of getting your face wet, did you never have showers or anything?
I know. I'd done these 2 big 24-hour cycle things. And then it's like, well, what next? What can I do next? And then I thought, do you know what? It doesn't need to be anything big. I'll just learn to swim. I was one of these people that would stay in your depth and just never get your face wet, But so I did. I just started taking swimming lessons. And once I got hooked, my brain said, oh, you can swim. Oh, you can ride a bike. Oh, anybody can run. You just put a foot in front of the other. And I thought, well, maybe I could just do a little local triathlon or something like that.
If I may, it's really obvious and clear how tenacious you are, and that is a compliment. I know there's yins and yangs to tenacity. One of my great traits in life is I'm tenacious too, but one of the things that can piss people off the most is how tenacious I am.
I think I'm just one of those, why not? Let's give it a go, people. Yeah. But so from there, I decided once I could swim one length, I thought, that's it, I could do triathlon. And I found
directly equivalent to couch to 5K. You're just doing it length. You're just moving a few notches on your GPS to where you're heading to.
Yeah. And for me, just getting my head under the water was the biggie. It took me weeks to get my head underwater. And once I did, I'm like, wow, this is phenomenal under here. So, and it was just learning the technique. And so I then found the Tri Club. I went and joined the North Devon Tri Club and joined them, and then realised...
The picture you sent me that I've used as your main mother picture, if you like, I'm going to reveal later on, and you look absolutely extraordinarily powerful in a red swimming hat. So
the picture that they'll see later from there is actually me coming out of the sea. We did that down in the sea. But the Tri Club, I've stayed with the Tri Club, and I realised quite how bad I was when I'm suddenly swimming with Ironman. People who've done Ironman was just scary. But
again, a testament to slow incremental progress. You don't have to be able to swim.
Absolutely.
Do a triathlon straight away. It's a sort of process and a journey.
It's all incremental. And through lockdown, I actually got myself qualified as a tri coach. So I've actually gone on to become a qualified triathlon coach as well. So because I love teaching people to swim, particularly ironic.
Yes.
The girl who couldn't swim now absolutely loves teaching swimming. So for me, again, it's about giving people things.
And we're going to get on to alchemy and purpose later on. So that I appreciate you probably mentioning that again.
So, but there, my children were my inspiration, because the whole reason of me learning to swim was just so I could get in a pool with them, because they swim like fish. So I thought that was my purpose. So they were my inspiration. So those are my 3 inspiring things.
And now we're going to talk about, borrow from the film Up, squirrels. So what never fail to grab your attention? What are your monsters of distraction? Squirrels that never fail to distract you.
Oh, it's always going to be something. It's always going to be a race. Or I'll tell you what it is. When somebody puts a clip of an Ironman race and the music at the start, and it's like, oh, which one's that? Oh, could I do that one? It's that power, the pull of a race, and people go, oh, I'm thinking about doing such and such, and I'll go, oh yeah, maybe I could do that.
Are all the Ironman races the same music? So it's like an icon music.
Typically they use Thunderstruck from AC/DC. When you're standing on the side of the water and they start playing it, it builds up.
My podcast producer is an expert at underpinning at this point. So we're going to get a bit of AC/DC Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck. Oh, I tell
on.
you, that just gets me in my heart, because that's what we hear as we're stood at the edge of the water waiting to get in.
Yeah.
That's what they play for us.
Yes.
So that's a big part of it. So
Dan, if you're listening, which I know you will be, now
get that music
put
on.
in AC/DC.
Yeah, so that's like the music for it. So it stirs me. And then the other thing has got to be exotic locations. You know, when you suddenly scroll a bit and suddenly reels pop up of these amazing places, and I'm like, I could go there.
I'm going to swim there.
I do. I always say I could get in that water. It
Yeah.
really is. So there's lots of exotic places I'd love to go. So if I see one drift across my screen, I'm off. It's like, oh.
On Friday, by the way, I'm interviewing two people from something called Emergency Duo. It's a husband and wife team who are doing some extreme cold swimming, going to the coldest places on the planet to swim at the North and the South Pole. So I'll tag you with that. I'll send that to you as well.
Well, Kath Pendleton, who is in Fearless, is the first woman to ever swim the Arctic Mile.
Ooh.
So
I don't think I'll be following in that.
I know. She does ice diving, and I'm like, I might go and do a bit of an ice dive maybe with her. Wow. I've got to build up to that, because you've got to get your body used to that extreme cold. But to go from one hole under another, I'm like, maybe.
Wow.
So, but I'm hoping to go caving at some point with one of the other girls as well, who does caving. So again.
You're amazing. Everything you say you're going to achieve, you will do it. I know that.
I will. As soon as I vocalise it, it's almost like, that's it, it's out there.
That's another law of influencing, isn't it? Social proof. If you say it out loud, you're more likely to do it. And I don't doubt that you don't need much cajoling from that point of view.
No, my husband would go, do you have to keep saying things like that?
Have to. Yes. You've moved a long way from possibly getting a sort of commode in the back of your car.
Yeah, complete. Oh my God. Yeah, that's unheard of.
He really didn't have a clue, did he? He really didn't. I'm kidding.
I thought his heart's in the right place, but that wasn't the answer.
That's what I was very struck with, the sort of creative solution of that. The sort of
the book was brilliant for him. So yeah, my distractions are either exciting looking races or exotic places.
No one's ever said their distraction is an ice hole before. That's extraordinary. Okay, now we're on to a quirky or unusual fact about you. Caroline Iron Ostomy, or not bubble butt. Sorry, that's the wrong thing. Barbie butt. Sorry. Don't edit that out. That's funny. But Barbie butt. Bramwell, what is a quirky or unusual fact about you we couldn't possibly know until you tell us?
Now this is funny. You'll love this, because it does link into my bike and sidecar. I used to be a Viking.
Oh.
I used to do medieval combat many years ago. In my late teens, early 20s, I used to train every weekend in medieval combat, and we used to go out and put performances on. We'd get hired to do shows. They were not choreographed. It was proper fighting, but all our weapons were blunted. But we trained solidly to make sure that we pull the blow so we don't whack full force.
Can I just ask you a question? Can you hear a really terrible sound now? Because some people in the street have just started doing some extraordinary stuff that you only expect to happen in the middle of a podcast. Did you hear anything weird?
No, I didn't hear any. No.
That probably means it's not going to happen. Awkward. So sorry, back to your blunt instruments.
Yes. So all our weaponry were blunt, but the swords, for me, the swords were a bit too heavy. A broadsword was a bit heavy for me.
Yes.
But you would start with an axe and shield. That was like the lowest of the low. You start as a peasant. You work your way up through the ranks, you see. So I started as like a peasant fighter. So I would fight with an axe and shield. So you've got your nice big wooden shield with the metal boss on the front.
Yeah.
And that's the only time you can whack them really hard. You can whack the shields as hard as you like. But you can't.
I have had the Vikings Valhalla fight stunt coordinator called Richard Ryan on my show as well.
Oh my God, we were part of Vikings of Valhalla.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh my God. I used to be, I was up in Buckinghamshire. That's where I was when I used to train with the Vikings of Valhalla. And so,
You might have met Richard Ryan, who is the stunt coordinator. I was at the Bristol Vic Theatre School with him way back when, and then he was amazing because he's out there. He lives in America now, but every season he is the stunt and fight coordinator.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I used to ride to our training. We used to train in full gear.
Yeah.
With chainmail, the lot. Picture my rat bike, my motorcycle with sidecar, boyfriend on the back. The sidecar didn't have didn't have a man in it. I had weapons in it. So every weekend, every Friday evening when we went training, his mate was on his bike and I took my bike and sidecar, and all our weapons were sticking out of the sidecar. So I would have shields, axes, swords, but my best weapon was a pair of scrummer sacks, which are like long fighting swords. So I could fight with two short swords, basically. So that was my skill set.
I can imagine following you in your motorbike with your sidecar with all that weaponry poking out, thinking, I wonder where she's going.
Especially when you've got your furry leg things on and wearing chainmail, and a crash helmet.
That's proper Viking geekery beautifully right there.
Couldn't miss me every week. But we would go and do performances, but we'd get hired in to come and do proper battles. But we would educate. It was an educational thing as well. So we would talk, somebody would talk about the weapons, the period, and they would pull two people up. We used to get hired by Skull Lager. Do you remember Skull?
Skull, yes.
Yeah.
You're supposed to drink out of a friend's head, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I've still got my drinking horn. I still actually have my drinking horn as well. But what they used to do, Skull would hire us to go to a pub. But what they did was they provided as an amphibious vehicle that was done up as a Viking ship. So we'd all get on it, just out of the town, come banging our way into the town to the pub with weapons clashing. And then we would do some battle reenactment stuff in their car parks, and they would pair us up. So they would go, right, what should we have now? I know, why don't we have the guy with the spear with the person with the two swords? So they would put me up against man with a spear and say, who do you think might win this one?
I can imagine sitting in the pub when suddenly the marauding Viking hordes arrive. You think, I'm about to get raped and pillaged.
I know. Yeah, exactly. But it was brilliant. And again, no other women did it. And I would wear a helmet, so my hair was hidden and my chainmail sort of flattened everything. And it was only when the helmet comes off they realise I was a girl underneath. And the kids always cheered for the girl. So the children, when they said, who's your champion? And the kids all wanted me to beat the men up. So,
the winner.
Yeah, so that was my weird fact.
Viking Bramwell as well.
Viking Bramwell.
We just keep changing. So now we've shaken your tree, hurrah. Next, we stay in the clearing, move away from the tree, and now we're going to talk about alchemy and gold. When you're at purpose and in flow, Caroline Bramwell, what are you absolutely happiest doing in what you're here to reveal to the world?
I embody the care and provision of services for ostomates. I've really stepped into that realm. It's having lived it myself, and I hear so many people who have bad experiences. I hear a lot who are doing great. And you look online, the people online are generally the ones who are having a bad time. The ones who are having a good time are out having a good time. So I see so much lacking and support needed that I'm absolutely passionate about making sure we get things right for people.
Yes.
And that means going into GP practices. It's influencing NICE, getting involved with projects like that. So I do that here in the UK. I sit on the board of the European Ostomy Association as well. So I see the differences in different countries. Norway have got it fabulous, and yet Africa, we cover Africa as well, they've got it very poor. And you see the extremes across the world, Europe and the world. So for me, my absolute passion and flow is about making a difference.
And are you a global ambassador officially in that regard?
On a European level, I suppose, because I sit on the European Ostomy Board. And I sit, as a part of that, I sit on the International Ostomy Association Board as well, but that's only a more recent one.
Yes.
But, it's rare for us to all meet together face to face very often. So, but yeah, that's my passion, to drive that better, to do more and utilise what I've got, my voice, my abilities to help people. So that's my absolute passion, is to live the best life with an ostomy that you could for each person.
You're a trailblazer, you really are, which I said about you at the beginning, and I'm absolutely convinced of that. And now we're going to award you with a cake, Caroline Ostomy Bramwell. And this is where do you like cake, first of all?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, definitely a cake girl.
What cake would you like?
Oh, you can't beat a Victoria sponge, but I just cooked a ginger and lemon drizzle the other day, so that's still got half of that in the house.
Go you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to put a cherry on your cake now. Be that your your ginger lemon drizzle, go you with the eclectic mix there, or your Victoria sponge. This is stuff like now. What's a favourite inspirational quote that's always given you sucker and pulled you towards your future?
Mine is the one I've embodied as anything is possible. I use it, but I've embodied it as well. So.
And I saw that on your website too, which we will mention very overtly at the very end too, to book you as an inspirational speaker. So just say that lovely quote once again.
Anything is possible.
Boom. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
This was from my dad before he passed away. In that little 6 months we had together, when I was setting up in my business, he said to me, be prepared to step on a few toes. And I thought, yeah, you have to. I'm not a meanie at all, but sometimes you can't also be the doormat. So his advice, be prepared to step on a few toes.
Lovely. With the great gift of hindsight, what notes, help or advice might you proffer to a younger version of Caroline Bramwell?
Oh, this one goes back to when I was being bullied. And I would say to myself now that not to let anyone dim your light. You need to be brave and speak up because people will follow you. And when I thought that just came to me when I got that question from you. And I've reflected how much that means to me now, as much as it would have done back then. So I thought that was quite poignant.
And just say that one more time and just deliberately reframing it again.
Yeah, it is never let anyone dim your light. Be brave, speak up, because others will follow.
Beautiful. We're ramping up to Shakespeare to talk about legacy in just a moment. But just before we get there, this is the pass the golden baton moment, please. So now you've experienced this from within by being given your damn good listening to in the Good Listening To show, Stories of Distinction and Genius. Who would you most like to pass the golden baton along to keep the golden thread of the storytelling going?
She doesn't know this yet, but I will be telling her. I'd like to pass the baton on to a lady called Danny Wallace. Danny is from iatqb.com, which is I am the Queen Bee. She is a speaker coach. She went from being homeless to making £1 million, and she has got a big voice and helping others to share their voice. So I would pass this to Danny Wallace.
Wonderful. Thank you for that wonderful gift. And now, inspired by Shakespeare and all the world's a stage and all the merely players, this is the moment where we're borrowing from the speech from Jake in As You Like It to talk about legacy. When all is said and done, Caroline Ostomy Bramwell, how would you most like to be remembered?
I think my legacy has to be that there is a clear pathway and process for people going through surgery for an internal pouch or a stoma, and it's right every single time, and they get that best care. So my legacy is to have a program in place that is adopted, that everyone gets the same level of treatment.
As this has been your... just before we get there, where can we find out all about Caroline Bramwell on the internet? And this is a moment, very excitingly, which is called Show Me Your QR Code, Please. So if you're watching the show, you want to book Caroline Bramwell, inspirational speaker, which if you haven't already done so, you should do. Here it is. You can click on the QR code. But just while people may or may not be clicking on the QR code, where can we find out all about you on the old interweb, Caroline?
There are two places I'm going to share with you. To talk to me as carolinebramwell.co.uk. That is where you can find me as a speaker. And I talk not just on stoma life, but the implications. There's so many analogies from what I've done. But also ostomylife.co.uk. Ostomy Life is a new CIC, social enterprise, that I've set up because people who are fearing surgery, they worry about food, they worry about exercise. And I've created Ostomy Life as a community interest company to help them in that area. And I've got TV's Greg Wallace, who also, I do stuff, I'm his ostomy expert, and he's completely behind what I'm doing there. So ostomylife.co.uk, and that website is now growing. There will be a lot more content on there.
You've also featured with Raphaeala Ilgenfritz on UK Health Radio. That's another really rich resource. It's the world's #1 talk health radio. And just tell us a bit more about featuring with her on her show, Stoma for Life.
Yes, she invited me to be a guest with her, exploring the details of my triathlons, I suppose, which was fantastic. And she and I have connected in a whole different way. So I'm hoping that we can do some more together off the back of that as well.
And I'm very grateful for Raphaeala having passed you the golden baton in the first place. So the trail is blazing away beautifully. Thank you very much indeed for that. As this has been your moment in the sunshine in the Good Listening To show, Stories of Distinction and Genius, is there anything else you'd like to say, Caroline?
I just want to say thank you. And I want to say also to anybody out there who's confronting surgery, don't be afraid, reach out. I'm happy to talk to people. So my doors are always open to people who are struggling. If I can't help you, I'll know somebody who can.
Wonderful. So you've been listening to the Good Listening To show, Stories of Distinction and Genius. If you'd like a conversation about guesting too, then here's another QR code for you as well. This is thegoodlisteningtoshow.com. When you're in the show, we use Restream to broadcast it, blam it out globally. You can also slingshot with your own social media there too. It's also a show on UK Health Radio where you get a week in the sunshine on UK Health Radio as well. And that gives you an audience reach through this vehicle of 1.4 million listeners across 54 countries and growing. So it's all very, very exciting. So if you'd like to be my guest too, you can do that too. We're on LinkedIn, I know, at the moment too. Just another, show me your QR code, please. This is if you want to connect with me, Chris Grimes, on LinkedIn. Very importantly, can we go back to Caroline Bramwell and look at you in your beautiful red swimming hat? Is that your favorite one, or do you have a sort of whole rainbow, different colors?
I have lots. Every single race you go to, you get given another hat and another t-shirt and another medal. So, but
and
if
check out your bling.
Yeah, all my bling that hangs on the wall behind me. But for the sea swimming, having something bright is important if you're in the sea. So a nice bright pink, bright red, bright yellow. You'll find me in the sea.
Great stuff. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute privilege and a delight speaking to you. So tune in next week for more stories from the clearing. And in fact, on Friday, I'm doing my next one. But in order to not make it sort of too time critical, tune in next time for more stories from the clearing. So yes, I'll stop recording in a moment. Well, this is the sort of edit point where, Dan, you can cut it off here. I'm just going to play you out with some theme tune music. But just before you do that, would you like to say anything else?
No, I just want to say, go out, live your best life, everybody. Thank you.
And just sit with me, if you don't mind, as I play you this music. Good Listening To show with me, Chris Grimes. If you'd like to be in the show too, or indeed gift an episode to capture the story of someone else with me as your host, then you can find out how care of the series strands at the goodlisteningtoshow.com website. And one of these series strands is called Legacy Life Reflections. If you've been thinking about how to go about recording your life story or the life story of somebody close to you for posterity, but in a really interesting, effortless and creative way, then maybe the Good Listening To show can help. Using the unique structure of the show, I'll be your host as together we take a trip down memory lane to record the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of either your or their life story. And then you can decide whether you go public or private with your episode. Get in touch if you'd like to find out more. Tune in next week for more stories from the clearing. And don't forget to subscribe and review wherever you get your podcasts. There we have it. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
I'll end the stream in a moment. Thank you very much. And I'll give you a quick call if I may straight away. But thank you.
Yeah, do. You're very welcome.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks so much.
Take care.